Is up, YouTube? This is your host, Rainy B, here to spill that homicidal tea. And today is a Back the Blue blend of tea that we're spilling around these parts. Sometimes those guys, though, behind the badge, they just suck. This is one of those cases. But before we dive in, slap that subscribe button like your parents should have slapped you. And now that that's out of the way, let's just get into it. The case of Tammy Lore. Tammy Lore, also known as Tamara Lore, was a 24-year-old woman who lived in Evansville, Indiana. It almost sounds made up, doesn't it? I mean, I'm thinking of like picturesque views and neatly trimmed lawns and sprinklers and kids running through them, and no, not so much. It turns out that there's some shady shit that's gone down there. Luckily, the police were close by to take care of things. Of course they were. Patrick Bradford, he was a married police officer with the Evansville Police Department. He worked the night shift from 10:30 p.m. till 6:30 a.m. He had radioed dispatch in the early morning hours of August 2nd, 1992 to report a fire at the home in the 1100 block of South Boyk Road. According to the news sources, he was patrolling the area when he saw the fire and informed responding firefighters and emergency medical services. Bradford said that he had tried and failed to save the victim, and he went on to say that he had felt that the person was already dead when he went into the house. Tammy Lore was the victim. That she was later identified and taken to the state medical examiner's office for an autopsy. Her body had been stabbed 21 times before being set on fire, according to the findings. Officers from Evansville located an empty gas can next to the victim's bed, and the killer had doused Lore, who worked as a file clerk at the Virginia County Jail records at the time, with gasoline and set her body on fire before standing in the bedroom corridor and watching the flames rise. And they could tell that by the little indentations and you know how they have that little thing that like picks up fluorocarbons or whatever. Well, there were two very distinct places where they did not show up, and that would have been where something was standing there, which was about the size of 2 large feet. Yikes. Now, over the course of a 4-year inquiry, the police discovered that Bradford had been having an affair with Lore. Patrick Bradford stopped the affair with Tammy Lore, and he returned a copy of her house key after his wife Dawn, who was also his high school sweetheart, found out about the affair. Now, Patrick Bradford and Tammy Lore, they didn't stay apart for long and eventually rekindled their romance. Lore threatened Bradford in an email that if he left her, she would inform his wife about the continuing affair, which she did. Tammy Lore was dead a month later. According to CBS News, Mike Ford at the crime scene, it appeared to be arranged as a break-in. And at first it appeared to be, break-in, window screen torn, phone wires destroyed, all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, it looks like also somebody had thrown around a bunch of stuff in the basement. However, this was all a hoax. I mean, investigators suspected Patrick Bradford from moment one. I mean, there's no evidence, though, to back up their suspicions. And he had an alibi, and his uniform was devoid of carpet fibers and soot. According to Patrick Bradford, he was at the scene of a hit-and-run accident on Main and Michigan between 10:57 p.m. and 11:49 p.m. But upon interviewing the officer of record, Eric Mittendorf, he said Bradford was never there, and that those stories didn't line up. Now, Bradford allegedly contacted dispatch at 11:26 p.m. to request a warrant check on George Russell, who he claimed to have run in on the street after detaining him. But Russell testified that he was at his brother's at the time of the, supposed arrest or detainment. A bank's ATM camera captured Bradford's vehicle traveling toward Tammy Lore's house around 6:30 a.m. the day after the murder, according to the police. Bradford allegedly contacted dispatch and scribbled bogus entries into his logs and constructed an alibi, according to the authorities. Patrick was apprehended and charged with first-degree murder and arson. Bradford stabbed Lore in the head, neck, and chest at her house on August 1st, 1992, according to the prosecutors. He returned the next day to set her body on fire. He'd changed his uniform and then called 911 to report the fire. What a piece of crap. Despite the fact that Patrick Bradford had denied killing Tammy, he was found guilty of murder and arson by a jury in 1993. He was sentenced to 80 years in jail. Thank you. You know what I wish it was, but that's becoming like I just need to start being happy with life sentences. He's attempted to obtain a new trial by filing a federal habeas corpus petition in 2013, but his request was denied. Bradford is being held at Branchville Correctional Facility in Piney County, which is a medium security jail. Now, this story has an interesting postscript. Like, that's normally where the story would end. But then Vanderburgh County Prosecutor Stan Levico, he was strolling into an Evansville annual 4th of July fireworks show less than a month after the trial. He gets a flyer handed to him, and the flyer states, "Bradford is innocent. No evidence, no motive, no weapon, no blood, no opportunity, no gasoline, no strange behavior. No justice. Who will be Levico's next victim?" Dude, they handed that to Levico. I mean, he could not believe what he was seeing. His eyes were completely widened. The individual handing out these flyers had not even seen that that was the prosecutor or that he'd handed them to. He just handed a flyer to the public enemy number one, according to this guy. But anyway, he remembers it being absolutely surreal. How is it? I mean, that's puzzling for someone who did not know him would be talking about him this way. I mean, it's estimated that nearly 4,000 flyers were handed out that night. Patrick Bradford's family had printed them in order to generate public interest for the long appeals process that they knew was going to come. In 2016, he seemed to have caught a break when the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals Judge David Hamilton wrote that he deserved a new trial. Doug Carpenter, a fire specialist, was hired by Bradford's attorneys to sift through the evidence. He stated the fire had been going for a minimum of 30 minutes for Tammy's bedroom door to have been burned through in such a way that it was. He said the fire was set rapid and it was fierce, and the prosecution's versions, it would have blown out the windows and devoured the entire room. Tammy's dog died in the fire, and I hate that. Ugh. But, I mean, the carbon monoxide levels in the pup's red blood cells, they were high, showing a long and intense fire, right? Well, again, a pup helps out with the case for their friend that can no longer speak. I mean, actually, neither one of them can speak, but this old pup was talking and taking up for his little buddy from the grave. And he had some old words for Bradford, but no. According to the defense that was appealing this case, there is no way whatsoever that that fire could have lasted only 8 minutes because of the high levels of the carbon monoxide in the little puppy's body, right? All this indicated that Bradford couldn't have started the fire. No. Carpenter's conclusions, however, were rejected by the judges, Judge Richard Posner and Michael Kahn. They based this incorrect testing on the fact that it didn't match Tammy's living situation. They noted that a majority of their conclusions, it says that they've assessed this dog's carboxyhemoglobin levels, and they use standards for a human. But whenever you roll it back to the size of a pup, pretty much equal to 8 to 10 minutes. Hamilton, the judge who was earlier stated that Bradford deserved a new trial, he, on the other hand, appeared to be swayed by this evidence, and the fire evidence, it was validated by the ATF. And Levico, he stood by it from the original trial and all that. But what was said was, "I'm quite certain that he's guilty," Levico had stated, direct quote, and he said, "I have a strong sense that I could have found an expert who said something different if there was an expert who said something like that." But when you try these cases and they're appealed, that's just what happens. So Bradford's attorneys, they attempted to have this case heard by the whole 7th Circuit Court, but they were unsuccessful after one of the judges abruptly recused herself after discovering an undisclosed conflict. So his only hope now was a Hail Mary from the Supreme Court, because you have to have all the judges listen to it, and because she recused herself, sorry. Well, he could only be praying for something from the Supreme Court. But why am I crossing my fingers? Because it's so obvious he did it. Bradford may be released from jail before his 80 years is completed. His earliest possible release date is September 10th, 2028. He'll be 66 years old. Guy Menace, who's been quoted as saying that, sure, Bradford will be released from prison, but Tammy will never crawl out from her grave. And that is a horrible way to put it, but it's actually pretty true. It makes no difference what anyone said to him. He said it's just not right, and he deserves to do his time. You know what? And there's always this element of time. I mean, you just can't compete with time. Time will always win. And in Bradford's attempts at a retrial, a lot of the people that he needs, they're no longer alive. I mean, like the arson investigator that was trying to help him out, he died in 1996 at age of 48. Larry Grimes, his defense attorney, he died one day after being elected as a judge in Warwick County. Bummer. But, I mean, like, what about Tammy? I mean, everyone focuses so much on Bradford. What about Tammy and the people that she left behind? I mean, there are a lot of people that suffered, one of which, her mom, Cricket Lore. Tammy's mother, she had gone through so much loss. She lost her husband Victor in 2014, and then in 2017, Tammy's brother and Cricket's last living child, Tom, died from a long illness. Now, from all the snooping that I could do legally online, it appears that Cricket's still alive. As I wrote the script, I sure hope that she found some sort of peace in all this, and she certainly deserved it, and it was confirmed after I researched it further. I did find some evidence that shows that she has actually found more than peace. She's found clarity and also peace for others. I found that Cricket Lore was called by something in her heart that led her to help other grieving parents. This part is absolutely beautiful. Cricket is quoted in an interview with WEHT and WTVW, the Tri-State News, as saying, "To be honest, Tammy came to me and told me to start a support class. She told me, 'Mom, I'm doing really good and I'm in a beautiful place and I want you to go help other people because I know you can do it.'" That's always so great. It's the best, is whenever, somehow those who have passed on can punch a hole through this side and communicate. I love that, and I firmly believe in that, and have experienced it myself firsthand. So, and actually I still do quite often. Cricket Lore, she went on to start that support group for almost 2 years, around 2012, 2014, but around 2014, Cricket had to discontinue it whenever they moved to Illinois. Now, I believe it was around 2014 that she moved back to Evansville, and it was around 2017 with her son, Tom, who we know now had died in 2017. That's when she started that group back up. She was living with him, and since his passing, I can't imagine how that group has actually helped her in ways that she never imagined that they could. And it's really nice to see how Tammy helped her kind of make that come around full circle. That's it for this case of Tammy Lore on Homicidal Tea. If you know much about this case or know anyone close to it, please let me know. It's one of the lesser known ones that I sure hope that I do justice by bringing it up. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I know I will see you very soon in the next video.